Welcome, Roshan, to the show here, man. How's it going?
It's going really, really well. Thanks, man.
Yeah, well, we're really, really excited to have you today. I think your story is awesome to see the growth. And actually, I was thinking about this earlier. When did you first come out to visit us?
It's actually almost 2 years to the day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it was 1 year, but then I was like, wait a second, that actually might have been a year and a half ago. And time flies.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you started. You were a dentist when you first started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so talk about where was your business when you came out to visit us, and what was your thought process? What were the goals at that time? And then we'll kind of dive into the steps that you took to get where you are today.
Yeah, I first of all appreciate you having me here. It's an honor to be here. I think it was really cool to join and come out here 2 years ago, because I was I call myself a recovering dentist, because I actually practiced for 6 years, grew a practice we had about 20 employees, and then I sold out, and I am technically retired.
Yeah.
I told myself that I would get financial freedom in 10 years or less. And through real estate, I was able actually to achieve it in about 6 years, actually 5 years. And then it took me a year to find a buyer for my practice.
Yeah.
And so coming out that was December of 2023. And then in December of 2024, I'm enjoying life. And I've always had this vision of an idea of vertically integrated residential real estate system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always wanted to have direct to seller marketing.
Right.
I just had no idea where to go. And I heard about you guys. I came out to the 2-day, and that was enough for me to join the small group.
Nice. Okay. And so at that time, you're thinking, all right, in order to be vertically integrated, the key to that business model is attracting the leads.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing you're like, I haven't done this before. I don't know what I don't know about it. But how did you hear about us? Just from other people locally, or?
I think I heard it through an Instagram post or a Facebook post of someone else. I believe it was Sam Singh, who had mentioned you guys. And then I did my own due diligence about asking around about, hey, have you heard of these Josh and Tiffany guys? And enough people had heard about you. I didn't have any experience with someone who had gone through, but I had enough people who had heard about you. I was like, all right, well, they're at least legit enough to have people I respect know them.
Right.
And then I can make my own decisions. Right. So come out to the 2-day and decide that. But yeah, I was in a place where fortunately I had gotten to financial freedom. That was 5 years into dental, owning my dental office. I was making more money outside of the operatory than I was inside the operatory. And I was making a pretty substantial amount inside the operatory. And then basically retired and was like, all right, now I've always had this dream of having direct to seller marketing, having my own funnel, and not paying the $10,000 to $15,000 assignment fees to other wholesalers.
Right.
Let's figure this thing out. Let's get it going, and then have me exit the business.
Right. So,
like still keep it, but not be involved.
Right. And it sounds like you were buying real estate while you were still playing the dentist role.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how I got to financial freedom, is through buying real estate. So I had bought around 50, 60 doors in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I first did it by doing the normal 20% down, and I went broke every month. You know, I maybe I got $15,000, $20,000 in the beginning of my dental career in the monthly check when I owned my office. And I put a property under contract that would take up all that money. And then that put the flame in that put the pressure on me to perform in dentistry the next month, because I didn't have any reserves for living expenses, because I just committed my entire paycheck to a down payment.
Right.
And so I did that for a long time, which I don't recommend people do that.
There's better ways that you've learned now.
There's better ways, but that's how I started. Then I learned about the BRRRR process. Then I started getting into no money down real estate. But even with the BRRRR process, if you don't do it perfectly, you might have 5 to 10%.
Right.
And I thought, I actually had a dentist buddy of mine. At that point, I was posting on dental Facebook groups, and I had a dentist buddy of mine in Oklahoma City who had a lot of money but no time, whereas I was fine with time, but I didn't want to give up the money. And so we partnered where we had different roles and responsibilities, but mainly he was a 50% partner by putting in the money.
Nice.
I was 50% partner by putting in the hustle, but we set it up where there was a checks and balance system where let's say he put $20,000 as a down payment. And for a lot of people in the country, that won't work, right? $20,000 for a $100,000 house. But here in Ohio and maybe in Oklahoma, back in 2017, you could buy $100,000 homes.
Normal thing.
Very normal thing. Yep. So that $20,000 technically should have been 10 from me, 10 from him. So what I did was I would write him a note for $10,000 over 5 years. And that made it so I couldn't just put any property under contract. The cash flow from the property had to be significant enough where hopefully it was paying the cash flow from the property that my half was paying my note to him.
Yeah. So is he still a partner in those deals?
Yeah.
Or was
so
it
we
just
have 34 properties together,
Nice.
34, 35. And then I have about 25 of my own that I did either before or after that partnership. And that's what got me into residential. Then in 2022, before I left dentistry, it was just too hard to cash flow. Mm-hmm. And I figured out then that commercial real estate cash flows really well. And I'm very fortunate, very blessed. But now with partners, I have over $20 million of commercial real estate.
Wow.
So I have 5 strip centers in 5 different states. And most of those, actually all of them are going well. One of them is breaking even, but that's because we have a couple of vacancies.
Right.
But 4 of them are generating significant amounts of money. Couple $100,000 just to me every year. With commercial real estate is the best, man. It's so triple net commercial real estate. You don't really work very much.
Right.
But even while I was doing that, in back of my head, I was always thinking residential is my hedge against the economy going down, because that favorite coffee shop doesn't need to exist, no matter how nice it is, but everyone needs a roof over their head.
Right.
So I always wanted to continue with residential. And so when I did exit out of dentistry, this was my passion project of starting a wholesale business.
Well, you've come a long way even since you started. And so early on when you were buying those properties, were you buying them off the MLS? Were you buying them from wholesalers, a mix of the two? Was there like a period of time where it was heavy MLS and then it shifted heavy wholesale? Can you just talk through some of that?
Yeah, so definitely 2018 was when I first started buying properties. Everything was off the MLS. I didn't know any better way.
Yeah.
Then I met some local investors, started going to those real estate meetups, and they were telling me, dude, what are you doing? You're absolutely crazy. Stop putting 20% down.
Right.
Taught me about the BRRRR, right? Then I started researching and learning about that. And then I started buying through wholesalers because I realized, okay, on the MLS, I'm doing these small little rehabs, like little make-readies, things like that. But if I do a little bit bigger rehabs, now I can have equity, cash flow, and no money out of pocket.
Right.
And then with my partner, even if we had money out of the deal, let's say we only had 5% out on the refi. Well, that 5% was really coming from my partner, not from me.
Right.
And then I owed him the 2.5% over 5 years, which the cash flow could definitely cover.
Right.
And so that's really how I grew. And it went from, MLS, heavy MLS to wholesalers. And then I got maybe 1 or 2 MLS deals between the pandemic. It was just so hard to find good deals then.
Oh, yeah. Man, the amount of people that were just throwing out offers. You could almost lock up anything and put it under contract to make money on the deal. So,
exactly. And then and now I'm starting to go back into the MLS because I'm finding great deals, great opportunities, full BRRRRs on the MLS again. So it's definitely something we're putting our efforts towards.
So there's a lot of people that are probably listening to this who are heavily relying on MLS and heavily relying on wholesalers. What was a big aha moment for you, or what was your experience when you went direct to seller? Would you recommend the people watching this to go direct to seller? And if so, why? And if not, why?
That's a great question. I think if you're ready to put the effort, time that a new business, a sales business needs, you got to go through the direct to seller method, because make no mistake, it may be the medium is real estate, but it's a sales job.
Oh yeah.
And it's a business. Yep. And that business needs to have leads, needs to have a leader, needs to have vision. And so if you're the kind of person where you're like, hey, I do have a solid income and I can float the business in the beginning while it maybe is not running super profitably, well, then I think that's great. And you have that vision where you're going to be running a second business or a first business, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But if you only depend on it, then you might get, I think you have it, you've told us about this, where it's like commission breath, like desperation, where you're on those calls and you're so antsy to get a deal locked up because your livelihood depends on it. I feel like you're less likely to succeed if you have that commission breath. So
that's where having a dialed in sales process that can help you remove pieces of that is so important. No, that's very interesting. And thank you for sharing that. What I've seen just with how we've coached people, people come into our workshops or into our virtual trainings and they're heavily relying on wholesalers or MLS deals. And even what you were describing, the deals are better. They're bigger typically when you go off market, let alone when you go direct to seller. Because you mentioned earlier, you don't pay the wholesale fee, right? But that comes at a trade, right? There's going to be time invested in doing that. So
cost per contract.
Yeah. Right. Now there's a cost per contract. It's no longer free. But again, do you want to build a business or do you want to have a hobby?
Yeah.
And you can have a successful hobby, right? That still does well, but do you want the consistency? Do you want the growth? Do you want those things? And that's where everybody gets to define their success, right?
Yeah.
We talk a lot of times about, we're not here to tell anyone how to run their life. Like they've got to define what success looks like. And it's our job to help people achieve success as they define it. So you come out to the workshop, right? And you have this vision and you've got that success defined now. What was like the biggest aha moment that you took away from coming out to the workshop the first time?
Well, I was that person buying off the MLS and through wholesalers, and I had done pretty well with that. But definitely during the pandemic, my deal flow slowed. I think I was buying 20, 30 deals for my own rental portfolio a year. And then pandemic comes and the deals that everyone was sending out were just so inflated, nothing cash flowed. And so I think my aha moment was simply just the 2 to 3 years where I didn't have deal flow, where I was like, if I want to grow this, I need to have deal flow. And to have deal flow, consistent deal flow, you need to have a sales process. And when I went to the 2-day, what I got out of it was that this is going to be a structured system that you can follow. It's plug and play to an extent, but then it has your vision and creativity involved in it, your little changes, variations you may make to it. But there's a system here that if you follow, you can do well with. And that's my dental office was a franchise. It was a system where it was a platform where you can do as well as you want to do, depending on how well you follow the system. So this all made sense to me. It's almost like you guys are giving people their own franchises, and instead of a franchise buy-in, it's like your small group cost, right? And I had done really well with that in dentistry, so this made perfect sense to me. Right.
The systems, the processes, the business in a box, essentially, that you're able to take and run with. Awesome. And like I said, you've done a phenomenal job. Just real quick, what does the team look like today?
You said success as you define it, right? My vision is I went from an office with 20 employees. I don't want that kind of stress anymore. I achieved financial freedom. I achieved the amount of money that, I don't have kids yet, but I'm not even working on wealth for my kids. I'm working on wealth for my grandkids. That's where I'm fortunate to be at. All I have to do is continue paying my debt down through just monthly payments, and I'm good. So my vision for the company was to always be small, was to be boutique. It was to get to 5 to 7 deals a month and have no more than 3 people, 4 people in office with a couple of cold callers or, virtual people as well. Nothing huge. And that was what I wanted the team to look like. And that's actually what it looks like today. I'm still running operations. We're in the process of getting my acquisition manager rolled over to COO position, where he would be a man of many hats. So he would be acquisitions, dispo, and operations. But when you're doing 5 to 7 deals, that's totally possible.
Right, you've got the capacity to do that. Yeah.
And then we would have one other person who's in-house who would be a TC/project manager. And then we right now have 3 VAs. Nice. So that's what we'd be looking at.
Yeah, man. And that's super exciting. And you talk about being vertically integrated. What are you envisioning on that front?
Yeah. So, there's so much that could happen. Right now I'm buying, we just did the numbers yesterday. Last year I bought 46% of my own deals. And we wholesaled or double closed 54%. So it's about half and half.
Right.
I'd love for that to change more to the wholesale, and do more of that. I'm sorry, what was the question?
No, what do you see? What's the vision for the vertical integration?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So if we go back, so if if we change that to more of a wholesale, what I'd love to see happen is we have leads come in, wholesales go out. That covers our marketing spend. Deals that I want to cherry pick, I keep in my rental portfolio.
Yep.
That'd be great. And then we actually through I have a Facebook platform that's real estate investing for dentists.
Okay.
We have 12,000 dentists on there, and we've partnered up with the person who did all of my DSCR loans. We did like 50 loans together.
Right.
So we partnered up with him. And so if I could tell people, hey, here's a property, here's the ARV, here's the repair budget, and then I get cuts of that. I'm also a hard money lender.
Yeah.
So if I could lend on my deal that I sold to someone, so I'm getting an assignment, I'm lending as the hard money lender, and then they do the repair, and maybe I have a cut from a contractor's. I don't know, maybe not there.
Yeah.
But then I also get a partnership with a DSCR lender who's a fantastic DSCR lender. And then I'm making money from there. So the vertical integration is not just cherry picking the best deals from my marketing. It's also I have 4 to 5 different ways that I could potentially make money off of this one lead.
Right. And I think that's ultimately the game. Like when you go direct to seller, you've got to continue to find ways to monetize as many of the leads as much as you can. And that's awesome, because we've looked at, Tiff's talked a lot about, and something that's on our forefront right now is we've started lending a lot more ourselves.
Yeah.
We had set a pretty large goal years ago, and about a year ago, we had hit that, which is super exciting, and I can resonate a lot with what you're saying. But
can I ask you what the goal was, or is that not?
Yes, we wanted to hit 10 million in reserves.
Okay.
And so we had been able to hit that, and now it's funny because just had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and it's funny how the goalpost always moves. So you achieve that goal, great, but now what's next? And so we've got another goal ahead of us now. We want to double that, and really the thought process there was, how could we put something in the most conservative investment, right? How can we put something in the most conservative investment, make 4% on that, and still allow our total overhead that we live covered by that interest, and not only that, that our living expenses are covered, but the nest egg continues to grow so it can compound over time.
Yeah.
And that's really where we came up with some of those numbers. So
did you look into like T-bills, like 30-day T-bills, or some stuff like
treasuries?
Yeah.
Yeah. So between money markets and treasuries, that's what I'm considering are like the very conservative investments.
Yeah.
But also being there, we also had a goal of always being the bank, right?
Yeah.
So we know that worst case scenario, we can do this, but we're really good operators.
Yeah.
And we can control a lot of we made some mistakes. And this is where Tiff, you'll hear about this at the 2-day workshop. When we first started lending, we went away from our own advice. You said it best, and your approach to building this business was perfect because you knew you didn't know what you didn't know. You knew you had to go find a process that worked, that was already proven. And that's where you came out to our workshop. You jumped into a small group and you got all of those things. Even though we knew that, and we did that for our real estate investment business, where we learned and we valued education, but for whatever reason, we didn't do that
for the lending business. Yeah.
And the first 3 loans that we lended on, it was about $1 million total that we lent out. 300 of it is gone.
Yeah.
We'll never get back.
Oh.
We almost went into a lawsuit, and luckily so we were supposed to do a 60-day bridge loan, and here we are 90 days in. Hey, what's going on? Here we are 120 days in. Here we are 6 months in. We're like, we need our cash back. Like those notes already matured. Like we got to go. What's happening here? And we weren't getting answers. And so finally I go and I drive out to the property, and we were bamboozled. They had sent us photos of the property that were not actual photos of the property. It was gutted to the studs, but it looked like it just needed about a $30,000 cosmetic renovation when we went to go lend it. And so lesson learned, again, have a process, do inspections, make sure that you're not just trusting, but also verifying.
Yeah.
And so that one, luckily we got that back. We helped them end up refining with a hard money lender. And then we had another note that was supposed to be a 6-month note that turned into a 1.5-year note. And luckily, it took us pulling teeth to get that also back. So
pulling teeth.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I see what you did there with the dentist reference. But well, now like we've learned from that process. We've now been educated. We have systems and processes in place for that business now. But it's just funny how it's so easy to think, oh, I'm good. I know it. I know what I'm doing. And then you get smacked in the face because you really didn't know. But yeah, just a funny experience there I thought I'd share.
Man, you can definitely get your shirt taken from you when you're lending. And I actually teach a lot of dentists about lending. And one of the things that I say is, okay, you're not just asking for interior and exterior photos, you're asking for a continuous video from the exterior to the inside, because they can't well, I guess with AI, maybe it's a little different, but it's harder to fabricate when the numbers are different than the numbers on your loan, like let's say it's 1905 Main Street, right? And then you see this video and there's no numbers to be shown. And I specifically ask, hey, that continuous video's got to show the numbers, the mailbox, the street.
Right.
And then I'll see, 1805 Main Street, you're showing me a different house than what you showed me photos of. And then I know blacklisted off of my lending criteria.
Right.
And one other thing that I've done, so now I've been doing it since 2022 lending, and every year I've gotten a 20% plus return.
Yeah.
And now I have about $4 million out on these. And so, you can do the math there. And I've learned that when I'm lending, I do some due diligence as well, but really it's more about the operator. And so kind of like how you guys teach to go deep into your market, not to go like skin deep into 20 markets, go really deep into one solid or two solid markets. I do the same thing with my operators. I go really deep into one or two operators. And yes, that increases concentration risk of lending to them.
Yeah.
But these are people who I give two operators, I give them 15 to 20 loans a year each. And within 6 months, it's like clockwork. I get them back, and I'm charging 4 points and 12%. And so I'm letting them get 15 more deals with very minimal documentation. And of course, I have my mortgages. I'm covering myself.
Yeah, but not as much red tape as a
exactly.
As a lender. Yeah.
And if they're making 25 grand a pop on these deals, they're happy because they made 15 deals times 25 grand a pop. And meanwhile, I'm making $100,000, $200,000 just lending to them over the course of the year. We're all happy. It's win-win. And so I bet more on the operator. I, of course, underwrite the deal, but I bet more on the operator than I do and go deep into operations and focus on that than I do the deal itself.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're very aligned in a lot of the ways that we're operating our private money lending business as well. As we do things locally, we evaluate the deal, and I'm with you 100%. The operator is key. Now, we have a little bit of a cheat code because we require that our contractor is used.
Oh, okay.
And so we know and trust them. We know how they operate, and they're very unique in the sense that they run their business like a business.
Yeah.
It's not a guy with a hammer and a drill and operating out of the pickup truck. It's not like that. So
there's safeguards in place, and that's all. Ultimately,
and
that's
only
what
go deep in our market.
Yeah, that's right. That's ultimately what it takes, I think, to be really good at hard money lending. Yeah. If you start lending in different states, you don't know who the operators are. You got 2 loans out to this guy, 1 loan out to this guy. I don't know how people can make that work.
Right.
I have trained I've gotten so good that not so good. I've gotten so fortunate that I've trained my borrowers that they will introduce me to title with already all the things that I'm going to need. And now I'm just getting, like, they send me a request for a loan. I say yes or no. Okay, great. I tell them to introduce me to title. Now they introduce me to title. They are the ones saying exactly what I have trained them to say.
Right.
And now title is just getting me the work. And really, it just comes down to, okay, now I need to contact my bank to wire the money.
Yeah.
And it's just the stupidest,
yeah.
easiest money I've ever made. I'm so grateful, so fortunate to be in that position. And
Well, I think it's really cool to share this. I typically don't talk about these types of things on the podcast, but I think it could show the viewers of what's possible. Like, if you take this thing serious, right, for a solid chunk of years, and you are implementing the systems and processes, you're not only gaining your time back if you're building a team, but you're also able to build this nest egg. Right. And as you build this nest egg, and I always think about this in 3 steps, and we call this the 3-legged stool. And the original concept of the 3-legged stool is where you start out and you're wearing all the hats. Right. That's phase 1.
Yeah.
Phase 1, you're wearing all the hats. You're the acquisition specialist. You're selling your deals, transaction coordinator, project manager, everything. Then stage 2, you start to build a team. And when you build a team, the beautiful thing there is that you start to magnify your results. And, when you're a one-man show, we only have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No one's figured out how to stretch time.
Yeah.
If you got a secret, let me know. I would love.
It reminds me of that meme. I'm going to manipulate time. Have you seen that one?
No,
okay, I'll show it to you later.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And but you're able to manipulate time if you build a team, because now if you go from one person who has 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to 5 people, like how many more hours a day did you just gain of leverage? And so when you do that, you magnify your results, and by magnifying your results, you build this nest egg, which takes you to stage 3, which is becoming the passive investor. And that's why our goal was always to become the bank. Yeah. We wanted to become the lender because that's true time freedom. Right. Yeah. And you just mentioned it's the easiest way you can get. And I think it's just good to paint that picture for everyone who's listening here.
You need a lot of capital, and you need to have the balls to be willing to risk the capital. Right. But if you do it right and you have the right operators, you have the right systems and process, it's great money to be made. But ultimately, everything, like the seed money for my lending came from a DSCR refinance on my entire portfolio. So everything comes back to, if you do real estate right, you buy right, you get good cash flow, you have equity in the properties, which is so much easier to do when you're direct to seller and have a system in place. You can then build the foundation off of which you can become the bank. And to be perfectly frank, once I get to a certain cash number, which is actually about 10 to 20 million, somewhere in that range, I'm going to sell probably mostly everything I own and put it in the S&P 500 because you want to talk about, like, I love real estate.
I'm laughing because we're selling all of our rentals right now, right? And it's just funny because it's like we're almost like at that stage that you're talking about.
Yeah, and then you put in the S&P 500, you don't even have to worry about operators anymore. You don't have to worry about even doing, you want true time freedom. That's literally putting into VOO, and you have a huge nest egg in there. You're going to get your 8 to 10% returns. I mean, off of 10 million, 800,000 to $1 million. If you can't live off of that, you got you got a spending problem.
Have you met my wife?
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard about her rehabs. Like,
oh yeah, no, man, that kind of material. I mean, that's just a fraction of what goes into even our primary residence. It's funny that you bring that up, just for to reference everyone who's watching this. We did a higher end flip than we normally do. We typically stick in the median home price here in Columbus is like $330,000. So going to 500 up it's a step up. Yeah. And we actually listed this house for $650. So it's definitely a different class than what we're used to. But as a result, Tiff loves design. So we bought a lake house. We completely remodeled that. When we bought our primary residence, we completely remodeled that. We had a second phase where we did the owner suite bath, and then we had some water issues in our basement. So we had to redo the bathroom downstairs as well. So she went all out on designing that. And she's like, I really missed this. And she forgot what that was like after renovating our 2 houses. And so when this opportunity came up, I said, hey, you said you love design. We're going to need higher end finishes here. You've got the taste clearly. Mm-hmm. Go have at it. And she's picking out tile, and my contractor's like, I 10x'd our budget, and Tiff is like 30x the budget.
That's still not enough.
Yeah, it's like we gotta take it down here. So it was just funny that you bring that up. But anyway, so getting back to, you mentioned the systems, the processes. We mentioned building the nest egg and having that time freedom and what is possible when this is done right. Let's look at now, zooming back into the business right now. What are you and your coach working on right now?
Yeah. So, I have 5 different businesses that take less than 5 hours of my time per week. They all residential rentals, commercial rentals. I run the largest conference in the country for dentists for investing in real estate. I'm part of syndications as both limited partner and general partner, and I do hard money lending. All 5 of those take me less than 5 hours a week. Wholesaling and flipping is unfortunately taking me 20 hours a week, right? Yeah. So that is my biggest time suck. And it's not nearly generating the returns to be worth that much time. So what we are working on is I have a Josh too, and he's my acquisition manager. And
good name.
Good name. Yeah, right. And I want to get him into the COO role. Yeah. And so we have revenue targets that we need to hit to prove profitability long term. Yep. And then we put him in the COO role, and then we give him certain bonuses. We just created a compensation plan for that, which I'm pretty excited about, and it aligns our business profitability with his income. Yeah. And so that is the next thing I'm working with Kelsey with, which is how do I get Josh to that COO role where I want to be the Tiffany in your heels home, where I want to be dissociated. Yeah. I want to continue to be less than 5 hours a week working, because I play tennis 3 times a week. I'd love to play tennis 5 times a week. Yeah. I take about 20 vacations a year. I'd love to be taking 30 vacations a year. I'd love to like live in different parts of the world for 2 months, 3 months at a time. And, my wife and I are working on kids. I'd love to, instead of schooling, I'd like to do homeschooling and have them go, like, don't learn about the pyramids, go see the pyramids. Yeah. That's honestly the vision that I have. And it's going to take someone else being the real operator of the business to do that. And so that's what we're trying to work through is profitability first, enough profitability to justify mm-hmm. him moving to the COO position and doing that long term. And then, what's part of that plan? So one, for everyone listening, I'm a huge believer in making sure that you have proper milestones and clear measurements in place whenever it comes to hiring, building the team, training people up, which it sounds like you guys have that in place. When we hit this revenue amount, this is where we're going to go. And then when we hit this revenue amount, and here, most importantly, too, having the back end plan. And guys, this is what we do with our students. Every single quarter, we have what's called recalibrations. And we plan for the quarter coming, and we looked at the performance from the previous quarter. So we have a plan, we measure our results to that plan, and then we adjust the plan accordingly on a quarterly basis. Now, obviously, there's ongoing support. Mm-hmm. It's not just you meet with your coach once a quarter, but it's important to have those milestones, but also more important, in my opinion, is knowing exactly down to what your cost per lead is going to be, how many leads you're going to get, how many leads it takes to even get a contract, and being able to measure those things. It's going to help you reach the milestone to then grow and take the business to the next level. I think that's the most important thing. So I love seeing the milestone piece. Yeah. Part of what I feel so grateful to be here the last 2 days and shadow your organization was Josh and I spent a lot of time talking about that quarterly plan. So the quarterly planning sheet, like I didn't have that, right? That's something that you guys provided to me. Now we know, okay, I said it in the very beginning, this is not meant to be a big business. Mm-hmm. We want it to be small. I've already done the 20-person employee business. I don't enjoy that stress. Yep. I could never delegate enough to be out of that business. I always had to be there. So 3 to 5 people is like our total. Really, it's like 2 to 3 people in-house is what we're looking for. Okay. So we're not big numbers. 5 to 7 contracts that we get under contract a month, of which we want $75,000 of projected profit. We know there's going to be some burn, like some contracts don't go through. And most of them are because of sellers, not because of us. Title is not willing. We had one where they were in probate and decided they found a will, the will said someone else was an heir, and that person didn't want to sell, right? So most of those burned contracts are still not us, but there's going to be those, right? So $75,000 projected profit, $55,000 closed revenue per month gets us to $165,000 closed revenue per quarter. Yep. That with our overhead is $31,000 a month, $31,000 a month. That gives us with commissions, it would be about $20,000. That gives us $111,000 of overhead and commissions. Gives us a profit pool of like $50,000. Mm-hmm. Those are those kind of milestones. And you're talking about numbers. I'm a big numbers person. Yeah. Here's what we hit. We got to hit 2 months of getting 2 quarters of hitting $150,000 in closed revenue to get Josh to be able to be profitable enough to move to COO. Yeah. And then once we do that, we get to 165 a quarter, and Josh is hitting his income goals, and I'm hitting my goals of stepping away. And now I have 6 businesses instead of 5 that only take 5 hours a week. Right. So yeah, I love the plan. Having Kelsey to help walk me through that, having your guys' spreadsheets has allowed us to define those goals, and then go down to, okay, it takes us 24 leads to get a contract. With the 24 leads to contract and a 75% contract to close ratio, this is how many leads we need per week. And then if this is how many leads we need per week, this is how many marketing dollars we need to spend based off of industry average of. This is what marketing channels won in however many leads to get a contract, Yeah. So, right. Yeah, no, so that's perfect. And I think so many people, because they build their business at first as a side hustle, right? You had the dentist thing and you were building a real estate portfolio on the side. I had a full-time job myself in commercial construction, and
I'm helping Tiff on the side. And when we treat our business like a side hustle, we don't have the KPIs. And because we don't have the KPIs, we don't have clarity in our vision or what's actually happening. So therefore, when there's problems, we guess. And when we guess, too often we guess wrong. And the problems continue to leak opportunities. And it's just this revolving cycle that until you take it serious and you build this like a real business where you reverse engineer your numbers, you measure your results, and then you optimize accordingly. We call that the TIFF KPI framework. Track your KPIs, but tracking it alone doesn't do any good if you can't do the I, which is identify the problem. If you don't have the skill set or experience to identify the problem, it does you no good. But even with tracking and identifying alone, does you no good if you don't know how to fix the problem. And that's where experience and knowledge of, okay, if your connection rate is off, what do you go do? If your offers per contract spikes, what do you go do, right? And it's those skills that I think are so important, and you guys have that dialed in.
I mean, I love your scorecard for helping out with that, and I'll add one thing, which is don't be an owner like me, because I got to the financial freedom, and I honestly, I was, even though I was in results driven, I was kind of treating friendly home buyers or wholesaling flipping business as more of a passion project. Mm-hmm. And so profitability is a relatively new thing for the business. Yeah. I've been floating it, and I've been okay floating it because I'm making plenty of money from other sources. But if you're trying to make this a profitable business, you got to treat it like a business, which is exactly what you said, which I was unwilling to do for long enough. But now we're finally in the right direction.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you just jumping on the show. I got one last question for you. I love to ask everyone that we interview and have on the show. If you could go back to where you were 2 years ago, okay, and you had the opportunity to give yourself advice, and think of it this way. There's a lot of people who are in a similar position to you that are thinking about building this business or making it a more serious effort. Mm-hmm. What's a piece of advice that you would tell them knowing what you know now?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I had to go back 2 years, what would be the biggest piece of advice I would give myself? It would be just what I said. Like, if you're going to treat everyone knows this. What you get in is what you put, or what you put in is what you're going to get out. Yep. I was not putting in enough. I was in a delusion of thinking that, hey, if I keep my overhead low and I'm the acquisition manager and I'm handling the calls, that we can make this thing happen. Yep. It took me 6 months of hitting my head against the wall where I'm on vacations and I'm missing calls, missing leads, and speed to lead is like a non-existent thing for me, where I'm finally like, okay, I need to hire someone. And then I hired someone, and he was an okay fit, but not a perfect fit. And now we got rid of him, and now we have the perfect fit, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that the biggest thing I would say is, hire for the correct roles. Don't have delusions about how much you are willing or able to do, which I did. Yeah. Listen to your coach, because Kelsey was telling me, dude, you got to hire someone. I was like, no, I don't want to pay $3,000-$4,000 to an acquisition manager as a base salary. I just don't want to do that. I could take those leads. And meanwhile, I'm sitting out somewhere where I like having a great time with my wife and on vacation and not taking calls. So it's having the right hires in the right places, and don't have delusions about your capability. If you're working another job, about what you can do in the business. Like, you got to be honest with yourself.
I love that.
Which I wasn't.
I love that. And I would like to expand upon that a little bit, if you don't mind. Hiring alone doesn't necessarily get us what we want, right? There's even
the first hire
steps.
Wasn't good.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's additional steps after that.
We're not good enough. Yeah.
What did you see from an onboarding perspective? What have you learned from a management perspective? You already talked a lot about the KPIs, but can you just talk about, great, you've got these people, but how did we train them up? How did we go about developing them?
I would say the onboarding is great. And we have access to Kajabi, your platform, to do onboarding. And then I had a more one-on-one role in terms of, okay, let's listen to calls together. Let's talk about it, which I've now stepped back out, but I can, because I know my guy's good enough. Right. Yeah. But I think even more important than that was, I've always kind of scoffed at the idea of core values. I've just thought, like,
it's fluffy.
It's fluffy. It is what it is. But man, when you have your core values written down and you find the hire that exemplifies your core values, I mean, sparks start flying. My acquisition manager and future soon to be COO, we used to have calls so often where we would be laughing about how like in sync we were.
Yeah.
About how I was thinking this and he was like, I was just about to bring this up to you. Like I was thinking the exact same thing. And I think that ultimately comes down to a match of core values, which I'll be transparent, I was kind of scoffing at, but I've now realized the importance of.
Yeah. I think that's critical. I'm glad you bring that up because a lot of people think that core values are fluffy. And if it's anything, if you've had an experience like I have, I could see why. I mean, there's been corporations that I worked for that when you're getting interviewed, they talk about core values. They're up on the wall, but never discussed again. Mm-hmm. You're there for years and not only are they on the wall and nobody talks about them, but nobody lives up to them. So then you're like, okay, this is just marketing, right? And it's not true. And when we made that serious in our business, like things changed for us. But real quick, to break this down even at a deeper level, we've got to have the right process, right? And that's really what we're talking about. We got to have the right process to vet the person we're interviewing to see if they're even a good fit, right? Mm-hmm. And core values are a big part of that.
Yep. The 4-step process of hiring. Yeah. That was huge for us.
Yeah. And through that, we're able to determine if they have 4 things. And these are the 4 things we look for when it comes to seeing if someone is the right fit for our organization. First and foremost, are they a core value fit, right? Most important. Second, are they coachable? If you come in and you have 10 years of sales experience and I'm giving you feedback on our sales process and you're like, no, I've done this way for this many years, that's going to create animosity between the team because this team member is going to say, well, why is he not following the process, but I'm being held accountable to the process. So now you create this toxic environment. 3, they've got to be growth oriented. I want someone to show up every single day who's driven and motivated to be the best version of themselves. If they're listening to podcasts, learning something new every single day, and they're taking care of their health and they're in the gym and they're very disciplined in their personal life, when they show up to the office, they're going to treat their role no different. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is that they've got to have position required skills, right? As a salesperson, you got to be able to communicate clearly. Doesn't mean you have to have sales experience. You could be a bartender who can communicate clearly, who's witty, who's quick on their feet, and you could be a very successful salesperson with that kind of experience. So those are the 4 things that we look for, and that's important. Now I'm going to go to the next thing. The next thing here is you found the right person, you made them the job offer. Now we've got to go through and make sure that we do these following steps. First and foremost, onboarding, you mentioned that. Mm-hmm. We've got to train them what to do and how to do it, right? Then from there, it goes on to ongoing daily training. It's human nature for us to fall off the process. So we've got to have the ongoing daily training. And then on top of that, go and watch film. That's another accountability piece. So we're training on what to do. Then we go back and watch what we did and we correct those behaviors. And if you have those 3 things, then you're really going to be able to set someone up for success.
Yeah. And it's too easy with you guys because you talk about daily trainings. Well, I mean, you upload them and on that Google Sheet and we can just watch Sage. Like I don't even have to do it. I can just tell Josh, hey, watch Sage's daily videos a week.
Plug and play, right?
You know, so I love that you guys make it easy to follow that process and give us the resources.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for being on the show. I thought this was an awesome interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it and really got to see what's possible, right, when you take this serious. So appreciate the conversation.
It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you. Oh, can I end with one thing?
Yeah.
So this week, you know how you always talk about being grateful, right? So I'm grateful for a couple of things. One, a couple of weeks ago, you see this random fade I have. I got a hair transplant. So the hair surgery went well, healing well. Yeah. That was just like a week and a half ago. So really grateful for that. But the cooler thing is on Monday, which today's Wednesday, so 2 days ago, I had a mobile notary come to our hotel. I signed. That got sent over FedEx overnight. On Tuesday, for the first time in 8 years, I bought a new primary home.
Nice.
And I did that while I was here and doing real estate. But the best kicker about all of that was it was through our internal marketing.
Oh, wow. You found it off market.
I found it off market. Wow. And it's 3 minutes away from my wife and I's current home. And it's got everything we want for that kind of intermediate home.
Yeah.
I got to pay my acquisition manager a great $35,000, not commission on $35,000 assignment, right? I got a home that's going to work out really, really, really well for where my wife and I are wanting to be and where we are in our stage of life in terms of that. And that all happened through marketing. That all happened through systems and having the right person.
Oh, yeah.
And for the first time in 8 years, I get to buy a new primary home. I mean, you didn't even.
You don't even think about that. Just an extra perk,
it's
right?
It's just such a great, we're going to have $100,000 of equity in the house. We got a bank to loan us on a conventional loan. We got a bank to loan us, not just pay the $35,000 assignment fee, but also loan us $100,000 for rehab. And it's a perfectly nice home, you know, my wife, has her taste.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate that she's not super expensive, but we have very specific tastes, and we're going to make that home exactly what we want.
Perfect.
And we're going to have $100,000 of equity. And that all happened because of the marketing that was done and the systems and processes in place that I have for friendly home buyers, which I learned through Results Driven.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. What a way to cap off the show, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congrats on that.
Appreciate it.